Hi guys, I wanted to talk today about the 180-degree shutter rule. First of all, I don't understand who wrote those rules, why did they become rules, and why people follow them. Because I think rules really are detriment to creativity. If it was as simple as follow those 5 rules and then you'll have a perfect shot, then there's no creativity. And so I'm not a big fan of rules to begin with. And I'm not a big fan of the 180-degree rule. So the rules state that your shutter speed should be twice the frame rate. And so if you're filming at a 30 frame rate, then you should set your shutter speed at 60. Or if you're filming at 24 frames per second, then your shutter speed should be at 48 or 50 or close to that. So that's what the rules state. But I think the problem is people often don't understand where those rules come from, and then just simply apply those rules. And so let's find out and let's learn about where did that 180-degree rule come from. So it dates way back when first moving cameras were built, and they use a rotary shutter. And I'm going to show you an illustration that I created just to illustrate. And again, the timing is not perfect, but they had an 180-degree shutter just like you see here that would rotate and hide the frame as the film is moving to the gate, and then open and expose the film for the same amount of time. So they needed that time to move the film into the next slot in order to expose the film properly. So that's how that started. And what happened is, just like filming 24 frames per second, people assume that, oh, in order for me to create the film look, then I need to film one at 24 frames per second, and then I need to double on my shutter speed, and so I need a shutter speed of 48 in order to achieve the film look. The sad part is you're filming today with digital, I'm filming with digital, I'm not filming with film. There's very little things that will actually duplicate the look and the feel of film. And the shutter rule, or the 180-degree shutter rule, is one of those where, yeah, you can double your frame rates for your shutter speed, but you're not going to duplicate the film look. And so again, I think this is a rule that was kind of passed on based on we want to duplicate or replicate what the film look is. This looks better if I do this, and in reality, it's not accurate. I have yet to see any kind of evidence that tells me that that rule actually applies today. The reality is your shutter speed should be dictated by the type of shots that you're trying to get. And so you need to understand how shutter works in order to determine your shutter speed. And so I want to show you a couple of examples. So for example, this is shot at a very high shutter speed, and you can see that there's no blur into the movement. Everything is sharp. And so the faster my shutter is going to be, right? This is what the shutter does. It opens and closes and opens and closes to expose the sensor. So the faster that's going to be, the sharper the image is going to be, especially when there's moving object, or if I'm physically moving the camera, everything will stay sharp. If I slow down this process, right? So if I slow down my shutter speed, now every time there's movement or I'm moving the camera, then I can get blur movement. And so, for example, again, I just did this with a drone. So flying full speed with a slow shutter, and you can see the ground is blurry, okay? And so, again, you need to determine your shutter speed based on the look of what you're trying to achieve, not based on some rule that somebody decide, oh, this is the way to do it. And so, again, another example would be in the streets of New York, I used, this is on the Osmo, I believe, and this is just a screen capture of my setting, but you can see that I'm filming at the lowest possible shutter speed of 25. So that means I was shooting at 24 frames per second. The slower I can put my shutter is 25. And so what do we expect at a 25 shutter speed? We're going to expect some motion blur. Let's see what that looks like. I'm hoping that's the right clip. And there you'll see a scooter fly by. There you go. And see that nice motion blur? So that's a slow shutter, okay? And then I switched the setting to a high shutter. And so same spot, now this is a high shutter, and after this struck, we'll start seeing some movement, and you'll see that everything stays sharp. There's no blur on any movement. And that's fine. If that's a look that you want to have, then you know you need to shoot with a high shutter. If you like the blur movement, then you need to shoot with a low or a slow shutter. And so again, don't let rules dictate your camera setting. You really need to understand how those settings work, and most importantly, you need to decide the type of shots you want to create, and that will determine the type of settings that you'll need. And so again, for me, the 180-degree shutter rule is out the window. My first question is what kind of feel and look I want for my shot, and that will help me determine my shots and my settings. So I hope that made sense. Let me know if you have any questions on the shutter and the settings for that. And in the meantime, I hope to talk to you soon. Have a good day, you guys.